let's shift over and talk about the garage for a minute. $14.3 million construction cost, approximately 750 spaces for cars. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the first floor, we expect to have some retail space, somewhere between 24,000 and 32,000. So once again, in the parking, you got a little picture there where the retail's on the first floor, and then there's parking as you go up. Lavin & Associates is the proposed architect. The way this one is structured is different from the hotel. The garage will be owned by the local government corporation, and the parking will be operated by the local government corporation. But there's some different players coming in there. The first one is the hotel. Newcrest Image just built this hotel across the street. They got to park cars somewhere. They're going to be parking in this structure. And under their lease with the LGC, they will get 150 spaces in the parking garage. And there's another option in there for them to pick up some more spaces by paying for them. So none of this is free. Newcrest will be paying for their spaces. And that cash flow from Newcrest going to the parking garage is part of a cash stream that will help to pay off this facility. And there's another important component pending. There is a proposed lease of 150 spaces to be done with Potter County. Potter County needs more parking spaces, primarily for jurors and people using the courts building, and their overflow, they've been parking on the Globe News Center for the Performing Arts lot. Well, that's going to be the hotel now, so they can't park there anymore. So they need to go someplace. And Potter County and the city, LGC, have worked out a proposed agreement, which has not yet been approved by Potter County, by which they will get their spaces in the building for the time they need it, which is during the day, 7:30 to 5:30. And they will pay less because they're only getting it during those hours, which is a good thing for us because then they're out. And so at night, when you need more spaces for the ballpark or more spaces for the Globe News Center for Performing Arts or whatever else is going on downtown, those spaces are freed up. So the way this will be done is Wallace Majali has an existing agreement with the city, which the LGC has assumed, and Wallace Majali will build this space, the building, and then Wallace Majali will continue to have a lease on the first floor retail space, subject to their successful leasing activity. And what that means is they have the space, and then they have a limited period of time in which to build it out, and a limited period of time in which to lease it up and get something happening, or it just reverts back to the LGC. And so what we're hoping is that this works the way it's envisioned, that this hotel gets built in approximately a year. The retail space may not go in right away. That depends on how successful Wallace Majali is at locating prospective tenants. And so the first floor, if it works, will be retail space and ramps and some parking. If the retail space doesn't work, there'll just be more parking. And it will never be where it's not being used, because until that retail space is taken up, it's parking. The schedule of construction for this one is to try to start this about in July of 2015, try to be finished by July of 2016. If we're able to do that, and if you remember the previous slide on the hotel, well, we're way ahead of the hotel getting done, and of course that's the main driver. When that hotel opens, we need to have parking places for their guests. There'll be scheduling issues and some confusion as you're trying to match up these schedules and build one while you're building another one. I'm not sure how well you can show this, but it's intended to illustrate the confusion stage. And, so if you can see in the middle there where it says hotel, if you imagine that under construction, then just north of there is the Globe News Center for Performing Arts. And so where are they going to be parking? Well, it's going to be on the north side, and if necessary, all the way up there to north of the Civic Center. And then we're hoping there'll also be some parking down to the south of the Civic Center. So will this be perfect? No. Is it permanent? Well, no, and we're going to go as fast as we can and try to make this as painless as possible. But in the same way we had to put up with the ditch, the big ditch, for a number of months here, we're going to have to put up with a little bit of construction for a while. Parking management. Once this parking garage goes up, it is expected to be paid parking, and we will be putting in paid parking in the immediate vicinity of the parking garage. And so the area that's in green is the area in which paid parking will go into effect. It's a little hard to locate where you are, but the big white spot is the Civic Center, and across the street there is where the hotel's going in. So another way of thinking at it, it's approximately the two blocks around the hotel. What's next? Well, that's up to these guys on the council and up to you, the voters. But one of the things we're all thinking about is, let's do something about the Civic Center. You heard the mayor talk about how long ago that was done. It was done right after the air base closed. Sort of like Potter County Courthouse was built in the Great Depression. And if the people before us could do that in those dark times, I think we could find a way to get this done. So here's a rendering of what might be done to upgrade the Civic Center into a more attractive facility. And to just whet your appetite a little bit, how about if the inside looked like this instead of what you know it looks like now? Okay. We are going to take questions now, and the way we'd like to handle that is, first, if you don't want to ask a question, but you want to make a comment, there are comment cards at the back, and you can write down whatever it is you want to say. We will try to answer the questions down front, but there are a lot of people in the room out there who are smarter than us, and we may punt to them if we get into trouble. So what we'd like to ask if you have a question, is to come to one of these mics, take your turn, ask the question, give us a chance to answer, and then take a seat and give somebody else a chance. If you would, state your name and shoot away.
My name is Eugene Strauss. And first of all, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for all the time and effort you put into this. I know you've done this, and I know you've been compensated millions of dollars for it. So, and you've done this out of the gratitude of your heart. Thank you. But, being a truck driver, retired now, but what are you going to do about commercial traffic? Buchanan, Pierce, and all that. It's a main north-south route. It's, it ain't gonna work.
I'm going to call out the big guns and let the mayor handle you.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent question, and let's think about what could happen. So we are working with TxDOT to improve the loop into a certifiable loop instead of Sonsi, which is certified as a busy street. And we have measured unscientifically, TxDOT and I, and we've driven from the loop on the south around to the north on the east side. And to drive through downtown, it takes 1 minute and 14 seconds longer to go around the loop. But we are putting in 3 bridges, overpasses right now. The truckers will quickly identify that those will cut off about 45 seconds of not having to stop on that southeast loop, 70-mile-an-hour loop. And that's the best part of our loop and will be when those are done. So all we got to do is then pull a, what's that governor in New Jersey's name? Christie. We got to pull a Christie and slow the lights down north of town another 15 seconds, and they'll start driving around the loop. Seriously, I don't know. Seriously, I don't know what the final result will be, but it will be apparent that with the increased traffic downtown, with those events going on, with us slowing traffic down for events, which is positive, is good, on that most Buchanan, the most eastern street, they'll either go to those other streets or they'll go around the loop. And it won't take long for the truckers to figure this out. TxDOT is supportive of doing those things. They're also going to do huge improvements to Sonsi. So if people are headed west, they'll be able to take that. They're also looking at a Coulter overpass. They're doing 3 overpasses on the southeast loop. One at Bell, one at Western, and one. They're in the construction phase right now. They'll do more of that to the west. And so we will move traffic to the loop. And when we identify a corridor and finish that, a new loop on the west side of Sonsi, on Helium or right in that area, that will move more traffic. Is that going to happen overnight? No. I would love to never see another cattle truck downtown, but the fact is there will be some for a while, and we won't ban those later. It is a state highway. I hope that helps a little.
It does. I just wondered what your plans were.
Yeah, it's not going to be perfect, but it'll be much better over time.
Okay.
Who's next?
Hi there, my name is Timothy Ingalls, and I have a question. I noticed there'll be some streetscaping or improvements of the street right along the hotel, and I was wondering if there are going to be accommodations for cyclists, either perhaps preferably personally in bicycle lanes or at least for bicycle parking, things like that.
The council, sorry. The council has been talking extensively with Downtown Amarillo, Inc. regarding making downtown area more pedestrian friendly, more cyclist friendly. And in fact, we're in the process of now investigating various grants we can get if indeed the city is willing to put up seed money. And I won't use the term shovel-ready-like projects, where once indeed we've made a commitment and we've got all the planning and the engineering done, there are possibilities of extending projects like that all the way down 6th Street and connecting with rails to trails. There's a possibility of making Polk Street a lot more user-friendly. And the goal is long-term to interconnect all of these areas so that they're much more pedestrian-friendly.
Sounds great, thank you.
Actually have bike racks as part of the TxDOT plan.
You know, adding to that, you know, TxDOT now has a requirement passed down by the federal government that on any improvements like our loop, there has to be bike paths on both sides. Now those will be the bike paths to nowhere, but we will want to improve the bike paths around the city, and it doesn't take much to add conductivity coming off rails to trails. I took the city manager on a truck ride the other day to show him how we can get over to Meta Park and then over to the Sonsi Trail and all those other things. It will not take a tremendous amount. Obviously, we're considering this and we'd love to have